What's really common to see with this chronic fatigue syndrome is high blood sugar and insulin resistance. We want to look at basically our fasting glucose. So this is something, another step that you can take is just check your blood sugar first thing in the morning. You can pick up a glucometer at any pharmacy for $40 and just look at your fasting blood sugar first thing in the morning. If it's over 100, this is a sign that you're probably leaning a little bit more on that insulin resistance side, and blood sugar is going a little bit higher than it should all day long, which means it's going to be attracting that calcium to the blood all day long. And where this can get magnified is if somebody becomes insulin resistant or even type 2 diabetic, now they're not processing that glucose correctly, right? We know that insulin resistance means that the insulin is not getting the glucose into the cells and being utilized, and the blood sugar goes higher. We all understand that. But what we don't understand is when we don't have the ability to process glucose correctly, now we're not creating as much CO2. CO2 is a byproduct of processing carbohydrates. It's not a byproduct of eating carbohydrates, it's a byproduct of properly processing carbohydrates. So if someone's become insulin resistant and they're not processing carbohydrates correctly, now they're not creating as much CO2, and now the blood is going to lean more on that alkaline side. On the other side of that, if someone is processing carbohydrates very efficiently but they're eating too many, now they could be creating too much of this CO2 and causing that blood to lean a little bit more on the acidic side. Now there's other factors that affect the pH of the blood. This thing with carbohydrates and what's happening with CO2 and where is it pushing calcium, these are just the most common things that are going to create trouble in that area. And when we look at this study here on chronic fatigue syndrome is associated with metabolic syndrome, and we understand that metabolic syndrome is when someone's leaning insulin resistant. They usually have some other things going wrong too, like high blood pressure or things like that. But this helps us understand that this is common with this scenario. So the solution would be to lower your blood sugar if it's going too high. Again, this is not going to be the case for everybody. But if someone's leaning insulin resistant because they've been eating too many carbs and sugars for too long, now what we understand is that if it can't process glucose correctly, that's also a restriction of fuel for the body to use to create energy. It doesn't matter if it can use cellular respiration correctly or not if there's no glucose that's able to be used. So this inability to process glucose correctly can be another factor that restricts a person's ability to create energy.